Hi everybody, looks like we're live here. I'm gonna wait a few minutes to let some people get online here. We're taking a look at tomorrow morning's weather too. Looks like we've got quite an interesting system rolling on in here. You can see on the satellite loop there. In fact, I'm gonna bring that up on the main page here too. This system's packing a little more punch than it was showing just 24 hours ago. Let's see if I can get this to play up here. Sometimes this takes a while to load. But yeah, looks like we've got quite a, I wouldn't say strong, but garden variety windstorm moving in here tonight. Or tomorrow morning. Well, it's going to start for some areas tonight. It'll go on into tomorrow morning. If we take a look at the NAM here, 3 km, you can see this low kind of slide in there, and about late morning you can see there's a pretty tight gradient coming across here. It looks like just north of Shelton down through the I-5 corridor there, 8 millibars there. That'll give you a pretty good wind gusts through that area, and multiple models are showing this too. So let's look at, this is the HER through tomorrow morning, showing some pretty good gusts up towards 50 miles an hour, anywhere from just southwest of Seattle down towards Olympia. And it's showing that there's a high wind watch, or high wind warning actually, for Whidbey and the San Juan Islands there, and for the coast. Actually, it might have been an advisory there. I better double check on that one too. So let's take a look there. So we're looking at, yeah, we've got a high wind warning up for Whidbey Island, Hood Canal region, and San Juans. We've got a wind advisory for Skagit, Whatcom County, and the coast. So it's looking like I'm wondering if they're going to put a high winded, or a wind advisory at least for portions of the Puget Sound. Those gusts up towards 50 miles an hour cause some power outages, and they might be as strong as some of these winds up in Skagit and Whatcom County there. So let's take a look at the HER. Also, the HER is showing 45 in Seattle, and showing some small pockets and some 50 plus mile per hour winds up through the islands there, and the coast is where the strongest winds will reside. But yeah, it looks like the southern Puget Sound, Seattle south, might get just as strong winds as Skagit and Whatcom County. They might consider a wind advisory. I wonder if they're looking at it now, or if they decided just to forego it. We are getting a little bit later in the season where 45 mile per hour winds aren't as big a deal, but there'll probably be some nuisance power outages because of those winds. If anybody's on here, go ahead and ask some questions and I'll answer them, and we'll look through the forecast at the same time. I haven't looked at the European yet. And I was going to run through the GFS here too. If you're just joining me, I've been looking at the system coming in tomorrow morning. Looks like some decent winds going through the Puget Sound. And this is the system coming through here. You can see it off Vancouver Island there. That's what's going to cause our winds for tomorrow morning. And going into the future there, you can see this low gets cut off down here, and then it brings some moisture back over us. And the GFS keeps hinting at some snow for Western Washington there. And it kind of merges with some more energy coming out of the northwest there. None of those look too snowy for the lowlands of Western Washington, Oregon yet. And then a third wave of energy kind of moves through there, a little bit colder on Christmas Eve, but still not an overly snowy solution. Then you get maybe a little bit into the day after, but let me answer some of these questions here. As far as White Christmas, it's probably still a little above average. It's probably not as high as I thought maybe a day or two ago. It's looking like maybe the period right after Christmas might end up being the coldest and snowiest. Portland snow tomorrow. Yeah, let's go ahead and check out the chance for snow. Let's look at the GFS, the latest one. I know the last few runs have been showing some snowfall. And since we can see Portland on the Washington one here, let's look at that. And we'll look at winter and Kuchera, 24-hour totals. So you can see it's showing some of the snow that's probably fallen a little bit tonight up north. I saw some video from up north tonight. It looked like there were some reports up by Ferndale too. So they're probably getting some snow in that band up there right now. You can see it on the radar loop right now, an area of moderate precipitation, Everett northwards. There's probably some snow mixed in at least there. And coming up on Sunday night, and you can see the GFS. Yeah, look at that. I mean, Portland, check that out. I mean, they're getting under that deformation band. Well, I'm going to have to take a closer look at that. Looks like some of the outskirts of Portland there look like some pretty hefty totals. So I'm going to have to take a closer look. We'll do that here in a second. And that band comes up over Seattle after, you know, that's not going to be accumulating in the roads for Seattle. I'm pretty confident of that. The temperature is probably going to be above freezing, and you might see flakes in the air, but I don't think you're going to see accumulating snow through the Puget Sound. Sorry, I was looking at this question here. Make that bigger. Yeah, it's letting me do a live stream with less than 1,000 subscribers. I don't know if there's some kind of algorithm that's letting me do it because you guys have all kind of jumped on board here and helped me out and got me some subscribers, and I've getting pretty good view time. So maybe they're just kind of letting me do that. I don't know. So, but anyway, let's take a closer look at the Portland stuff down there. This is going to be, yes, we'll leave it on Kuchera for now. We'll go ahead and look at temperature. And just to rule out if it's going to snow or not, I like to look at the minimum temperature here because I want to see just how cold it gets. Sometimes when you get a snow band over top of you, it doesn't, you know, it only takes an hour or two to make a disruptive snowfall, especially if you get below freezing during that time. It looks like the temperatures are going to stay above freezing for Portland proper. Maybe some of the foothill or the coastal range off to the west might get some snow. It looks like the temperatures are staying a little bit too warm, but that band was kind of interesting. But as we saw the last few days, the models were not handling these snow events well with the marginal conditions, so it's probably just doing the same thing. Yeah, I don't expect accumulating snow in Seattle or Portland on cement, so that is what it is. I'm trying to get used to reading these questions at the same time here. Let's see if I can bring that over in this window. There we go. Okay. So yeah, Monday morning you might see some snow flying in Portland and maybe up towards Seattle a little bit later as that moisture moves up. Since we're here, let's just go ahead and look at the Kuchera 24-hour snow totals and just kind of see what the GFS is toying with out in the extended here too. And then we'll look at the 500 millibar temperatures. So we're going through Thursday here. Here comes Christmas Eve. Oh, we're not loading very fast. Christmas Eve showing showing a little bit of accumulation there in Seattle, 3+ inches, and then you can see that moisture kind of slide up the sound. I'll have to check that out. I mean, the system is not going to be overly cold, and I'm kind of skeptical of that, but you're definitely going to get snow in the mountains, or especially if you get above 1,000 feet. You lucky people who live up in the foothills there are probably going to see some snow. Let's check out. So this starts Friday afternoon. Not a great time. You probably get a little bit of heating during the day going on there and Christmas Eve, so it's not going to be favorable for sticking in the cement. Let's just check out the surface temperature here. Yeah, mid-30s. I mean, you might see some flakes flying, but it's not going to be sticking on much in the Seattle metro area. Same with Portland. You can see the temperature is a little bit colder up north in BC. but it didn't show much snow for them up there during that time period. And let's look at the upper air wind just for a second here. I want to see how these are kind of playing here. So we're going to go, we're way out ahead of ourselves here. Okay. So check the winds out. So this is what's going to happen tomorrow morning. You can see the pretty good wind surge through the Puget Sound. There's a pretty good gradient setting up there. They might want to put a wind advisory. If you guys were just joining now, I was talking about this earlier. They might want to put up a wind advisory for the southern Puget Sound or Seattle southward, or just include the entire Puget Sound. You can see there's some pretty good wind shooting through there. The HRR had some pockets of 50 miles an hour, and the NAM was showing similar, and the European has 45, so it might be worthy of a wind advisory, but the last discussion went through and they didn't update it. So anyway, you can see the surge come through westerly up north of Strait of Juan de Fuca. As we go forward, when is this? This is Saturday late. And after midnight, you see the winds all of a sudden shift offshore as that low develops off of Oregon there. You can see some pretty good winds coming through the sound out of the north there. Fraser River Valley getting going there a bit. I'll have to check out what those gusts are going to be here also. This is just kind of a 925. And as that low kind of moves up the coast a bit there, you can see winds start to turn southeasterly across the region. Fraser River Valley is still going here, so maybe that'll clear out some of this drizzle and low clouds, and we'll get a nice view of our new mountain snowpack. Yeah, it's the time of year for turbulence in Western Washington for sure. I mean, that's what I do at work. I get to talk to the pilots about what to expect, and these systems just come through and people start getting used to it. Pilots will complain about small turbulent, we're just starting to get the jet stream down lower into the 48, and by December or January, everybody's used to it, and it becomes much less of an issue, really. But sometimes there's just no escaping some turbulence when you're flying around during storms in the fall, winter, and early spring. But let's check out the surface moisture dew point, and let's look at this. Okay, let's check dew points just to make sure there's not going to be some kind of evaporative cooling event going on Monday. It doesn't look like it. Dew points above freezing. But check that out, southern BC. I mean, that's pretty impressive. The dew point there in Bellingham, 23. It's pretty low. What happens when you have a low dew point, and if you bring moisture into that, this is typical with Arctic air masses, you'll drop the dew point considerably, and sometimes it'll be in the single digits or even below zero, the dew point will be. And you're kind of looking at the temperatures, and you might warm up to the mid 30s during the day, but the air mass is still really dry. And then as you get a Pacific front moving into the system, into the region, that precipitation starts falling into that Arctic air mass, and it will give you that evaporative cooling, and that will drop the temperature rapidly, and the dew point will start to rise and the temperature will drop, and then they'll meet. And if it's an Arctic air mass, it'll meet, well below 30 degrees a lot of times, and that's when we get some significant snowfall events here in the Pacific Northwest. But let's go into, you can see the Fraser River Valley bringing that drier. You can see the dew points into the upper 20s there, and mid and lower 20s actually as you go up the river valley there. But anyway, let's take a look at the extended a little bit here, and then we'll go revisit what's coming tomorrow morning for anybody who just joined. Cat jumping across the screen there. So this is the Christmas Eve system here. You can see too, this is taking kind of a long trajectory over water, and it's really conducive to lowland snow. As you saw with the marginal temperatures, we just don't have, you need to be on the north side of a low in a system, in a setup like this. And you need some kind of offshore winds going, and then you need the precip. And when you bring the trajectory off that much, a lot of times the low won't form close enough to the region, and you don't get that good precipitation rate. So this is early morning on the 26th, and you can see here, You can see the vortex kind of sliding, that the blue color gets over us. And you really need the secondary blue line here. It's about 522 on the decameters on the 500 millibar chart. That's really close to what you need for snowfall in the Pacific Northwest with the temperatures aloft. In a lot of events, you need about 523 or lower. So when you see 522, 525 get down, you can start talking about snow possibly. So this one's better. This trajectory is better. It takes it off the continent, back over the water a bit, picks up some moisture and comes back in. So there is a snow chance, it looks like, the day after Christmas. We're gonna have to watch that system going on. It's a little future, a little more here. You can see we are in the north flow, but there's really no upper air support until later. And here goes the GFS into its wonky configuration at 384 hours. It really doesn't mean anything at all. So yeah, the GFS was pretty gung-ho, and now it's just showing the 26th into the 27th possibly. We'll have to watch that event, but again, that's 9-10 days out. These events keep getting pushed out, and I don't like seeing it, and I know a lot of people don't like hearing it, but it's just kind of what's been going on recently, and it doesn't bode well for confidence in these events. So here's the European model. Let's take a look at that. Maybe the euro is going to change its mind. Who knows? There's the system moving through tomorrow morning. You can see this a pretty strong gradient there moving across western Washington. Then we kick this cutoff low that kind of spins off the Oregon coast there. And it tries to get a little closer. And by this time, we've got offshore winds across western Washington going on here. So we've got some low-level dry air coming in cooling, but it's still probably not going to be enough to bring any snow accumulation to the lowlands. And then here we go. Here is this 22nd. Another system kind of breaks off over us there. That's a chilly upper level low. Probably not good enough for snow at the surface though, but I kind of like the look at this next little low moving off that vortex there on the euro. That is a lot better if you like snow. But is that going to get down far enough? That's getting close. So we're at 198 hours of euros running right now. But this is kind of an interesting change there. Favorable than the euro's been the last couple of runs. Let's check out the surface map. Yeah, that's better. I mean, the European model, that troughing is close, and you're getting a pretty good gradient there. Yeah. Good to see you guys chatting there. I'll get to those questions here soon. But yeah, check out that gradient. That's a pretty good Arctic high over the Yukon, and there's a decent gradient to British Columbia. And if that low can just sag down a bit and tap that Arctic air, you could be looking at some snow on the 27th. Let's check out the GFS surface pressure there too, just to kind of get a look at what that troughing looked like on the 26th. Yeah, I mean, that could do it. This low crossing like this would be tapping some of this Arctic air, and especially that once the low passes into eastern Washington, we'd be getting some good surface level winds that would be wrapping around the Olympics, and we'd get some forcing in that convergence zone, and there could be a couple bands that actually did drop some accumulating snow in western Washington. That's not much for Oregon's, but let's look. I've had a couple questions about Oregon. Yeah, I saw the euro showing that 6 to 10 inches for Portland. Yeah, it looks like it's going to be too warm to stick. It's kind of what was happening last week. But here is that system there off the coast of California and Oregon there. And if we look at the GFS, let's go a little bit closer. Oh, I don't want to cancel any one of those yet. So let's go. Nah, we'll just zoom in. So we're going to zoom in on Washington and just look at Portland and Seattle. It shows the band of snow there, but it's highly unlikely it's going to accumulate on cement, unfortunately. So this is Sunday. Yeah, so it looks like it starts Sunday morning, actually. Pretty early there and I don't doubt the mountains to the east and west of Portland are going to get snow, and you might see some flakes in the air, but I don't think you're going to be seeing any kind of accumulation on cement down in the metro area. And then you can see that band kind of move up towards Seattle, and that's probably not going to accumulate either. What's to watch is if that snow band gets up towards Bellingham and messes around with that Fraser River air moving out there, that dry, cold air, that could be a snow event up there. And I know Seattle and Portland will be left out of the fun, but let's see. So that band starts up at about 21Z Monday. Let's look at the surface wind and gust. Actually, let's look at the speed just so we can get streamlines there. But yeah, if that band gets up over that outflow, San Juan's, Bellingham, Skagit, Whatcom County, Vancouver, BC, that's going to be a lowland snow event up there, and that's on the 21st. That's Monday. Yeah, that would be interesting. But as you can see at this time, all the winds are offshore, all the way across western Washington, Oregon, British Columbia, outflow winds to the Fraser River Valley. Yeah, I'm hoping that the Eastern Pacific Oscillation and the convergence zone sets up. Maybe we'll get one of those convergence zones to tap some of that Arctic air. And if one of those systems moves through and does produce a convergence zone, it's with that Arctic high north, it's tapping Arctic air at that point. So good chance for some accumulating snow, but with a convergence zone like that, it doesn't get everybody. So there's usually people that get left out, people north and south of convergence zones. And a lot of times during those convergence zones, sometimes they'll be progressive and get down towards Seattle and kind of leave areas Everett north without precip or Tacoma south. So, but again, that's going to be an individual event that we'll look at closely. Hold on, guys. Okay, sorry about that. Back. So again, since there's people arriving now, and let's look at what's coming tomorrow morning. Looks like a little bit of a wind event across the Puget Sound, and there's high wind warning up for Whidbey and San Juan Islands, and there's wind advisory up for the coast in Skagit and Whatcom County. You can see this low come across tomorrow morning and late morning, and that's a pretty tight gradient on the southern Puget Sound. I'm kind of surprised there's not a wind advisory up for that yet. I keep checking back here to see if they're going to update anything, but they are not. Yeah, pretty tight gradient, and I'll show you what the latest tourist showed. So it's some potential 50 mile per hour gusts there from South Seattle southward towards Olympia, and as well as the coast. You can see similar speeds as the coast, and you can see the strongest winds kind of just west of Whidbey Island, Hood Canal, up towards the San Juans there. And also, let's check out, I think the NAM, let's look at the NAM up close here too. So here comes tonight. This is just after midnight. You can see the winds really kick up over the San Juans there, and the coast really gets ripping. And then that moves into, look at Bellingham, 51 miles per hour tomorrow morning around 6 a.m. And then you can see, look at Seattle, 49, Tacoma, 49. There's 54 out there on the peninsula. Yeah, so gradients, that is basically, gradients are caused by temperature difference. So when this low is moving in, it's bringing cold air with the center of the low, basically. It's an easy way to think of it is that low north here is cold air. And then as you get further down, there's warmer air, and the stronger the gradient, the more powerful the wind speed in there. So basically it's a temperature gradient that we're looking at there. And let's see if I can highlight that. You can kind of see it there, right there. You see this warmer air punching in ahead of the cyclone. Or moving up towards the cyclone, then a colder air aloft up here. And looking at 10,000 feet, you can kind of see the colder air, -8, -9, versus a little bit warmer down there. And you can kind of see this air of this tongue of warm air as it moves up into the Puget Sound here into Saturday morning. Probably what's bringing the stronger wind gusts in towards the Puget Sound there. So yeah, gradient is a temperature. The pressure gradient is temperature difference. And there's a lot more that goes into it than that, you know, upper air winds that can mix down depending on the stability of the atmosphere and all kinds of stuff like that. But that's the easy way to remember it. It's a temperature difference. So you get a big lobe of cold air kind of sliding. You know, it's moving around with the polar vortex. And I shouldn't use that term because it's getting confused a lot. But anyway, I'll just say that with these Rossby waves, this cold air moves around, and as it comes down, it brings like a frontal system, and that warm air will stretch up with it. You'll get a tight gradient. And if that's tightening up right where you are, you can get pretty windy, as we've seen in some of our windstorms. And you can see our atmosphere cool off going into Sunday there. Yeah, thanks guys for subscribing too. It's hopefully I will be able to go live like this. I don't know if this is some kind of trial thing, but I'm getting closer to 1,000 subscribers, and maybe they just kind of let me go early. I don't know. But let's look at, and I think I showed you guys the European model. The European model showing mid 40s, so that could cause some nuisance power outages also. And you can see this thing just kind of rolling through here. Looks like this graphic stopped, but yeah, I mean, that's a pretty stout looking system. This thing has kind of been on the upswing here in the recent model runs, and the satellite imagery of this thing is pretty impressive. That's some good cold air behind this. Good baroclinic leaf developing here. This thing is going to spin up a little bit as it moves inland. That's could be a little bit of a punch. See if they put a wind advisory out for tomorrow morning at some point here. Keep updating, but probably not going to see it. Let's look at a zone forecast to see what they're calling for winds. Yeah, they're not calling for much. Saturday up to 18. That's not going to cut it. Maybe it's not an official forecast, but let's look at the euro here too. Let's update the euro and get the rest of the run through here. So for those of you just joined now, you can see that system moving through tonight, and the euro has that tight gradient. You can see about 8 millibar through southern Washington through the central Puget Sound. So all models in agreement for a pretty windy Saturday morning coming up. So what you missed so far is that tomorrow morning's going to be windy throughout the Puget Sound, on the coast, San Juan, so pretty much all areas of western Washington actually. And I don't want to leave Oregon out here too, but let's look at what they're going to get. A little bit gusty down there. You might get some 40 mile per hour winds down through the Willamette Valley too. And you can see if you're somebody up in the mountains, or if you're doing some backcountry stuff, watch out for the high winds, especially in the Olympics, Hurricane Ridge. Okay, back to the European here. So right now I'm just kind of going through the European model, and you can see the system moving into tomorrow. You can see the low deepening as it moves into British Columbia here. And then you can see this cutoff low form out here. And some of the models are showing this cutoff low having some snow in Portland and Seattle, but it's not going to stick on the cement on Monday morning or into Monday afternoon. If it does, I'll be the first to tell you it's going to change. But if Effingham or Vancouver, British Columbia, this could actually be a pretty good little snow event if that moisture does reach that far north, because you're going to have that cold outflow wind from the Fraser River dew points down, so you get some good evaporative cooling, and that precip could fall as snow. All right, so let's get into the future a little bit. Everybody wants to see what's going on. So you can see the sliding down out of the northwest here over Vancouver Island. That's in result of that, some Arctic air sliding down. It's not overly strong. You can kind of see it up there, that Arctic high, but it's pretty weak, and a lot of it moves off to the east there. So we're kind of left with that on the 21st. But then a stronger system is coming down there, and you can see a stronger Arctic high. And I mean, this is going to be raging through British Columbia here. I mean, we're still on the warm side of this low, western Washington and Oregon. British Columbia is getting pretty close at that point to a significant snow event. And you can see this troughing continues, and this Arctic high is pretty close at this point. And let me tell you something about these. You look at these lows and you think, oh, it's only 1,000 millibars and it's not a big deal. And it does not take much. It takes very subtle troughing, especially with strong Arctic outflow, to create a significant snowfall. So this looks like a snowy solution to me on the European there. I mean, this low as it passes through there is going to be pulling some pretty cold air off there, and there's probably going to be some convergence zone bands, and if a low takes that track, it can get Portland also. So I'm going to go ahead and let's check out the European, what's calling for some, as far as snowfall totals, not Vermont. And we'll go to winter, and we'll do Kuchera, and check this out. What was that? Okay, so actually this will be, let's just go through it. So the European is actually showing a little bit down towards the metro also, but again, the European didn't perform well last week, and I assume that's going through the same kind of issues this week. It's not going to stick in the metro area, at least not on the cement. And you can see it spread some of that up towards Bellingham, but it doesn't, the European doesn't shed as much moisture north as the GFS does for Vancouver, British Columbia, or Bellingham. So anyway, on into the future here. Mountain snow's been piling up. These are 24-hour totals here, so this is going to fluctuate back and forth as these little lows move through. And here we go. So Christmas Eve, the I-5 corridor south of Seattle, Olympia into Portland. Looks like the snow's going to start. That's interesting. I mean, look at the signal on the coast there too for Christmas night. A little bit coming through the Puget Sound. Check it out. North of Seattle, piling up there. It kind of misses Seattle, but again, this is way too early for specifics on this kind of event. This is still 9-10 days out, but the European kind of swings back a little bit here tonight, which is good, and it looks like we might still get some snow out of this yet. Gold Mountain, 1,750 feet. Yeah, anything above 1,500 feet is probably getting really good snow tonight too. European Ensemble. Yeah, we'll take a look at that one too. So let's look at the winds. I want to see what kind of winds we're looking at here. Surface wind, and we'll just do wind speed and infer from there. So this is in the 23rd here. I want to see when these winds start to shift a little bit as the system kind of rolls closer here. Still onshore, southerly, and there's the switch. Okay, so you can see the day after Christmas morning looks like it goes from southerly to quickly offshore there. You can see that Fraser outflow up here just starting to really pour out over. This is sustained wind speeds here too, so pretty gusty out over the San Juans and out towards Vancouver Island as that gets going. And then you can see full force right there coming all the way across to Port Angeles at that point. And that is 248 hours out, but we're offshore winds here, and this is good for snow lovers to see that. Although it's going to leave some areas without snow in some kind of in a scenario like this, but again, too early for details. The main takeaway from this European run is that I got to zoom out first. Is that it's showing some pretty good Arctic air getting close to the region. So that's the main takeaway here. My computer's being kind of slow. Yeah, let's look at the 850 temperatures. Yeah, the European, when it went away there for a day and a half or so, was kind of bumming me out. I was like, oh, we got a strong signal for some Arctic air, and the European all of a sudden just didn't like it at all, and now it's kind of coming back. But that's, and I know that is the case, but it still kind of wasn't good to see. I mean, the fluctuations at these ranges happen all the time, and it's to be expected. And check out this just amazing air mass. I mean, this is Christmas Day right there. It might arrive a little bit too late for Christmas Day in Western Washington, Oregon, but check out those temperatures. This is at 5,000 feet, and we are well 20 below up into British Columbia, the Yukon, Northwest Territories, Alberta, and you can see that air spilling off the coast there, and that's what you want. You want this wind to come off the coast there and come right back into Western Washington. You don't want it picking up too much moisture where it develops a deeper cyclone and the cyclone stays too far north, which happens when these air masses move out too early. They pick up too much heat and they develop into stronger lows, and then we're left in the warm sector down here. You want this just to come off the coast there and pick up just enough moisture to develop a weak cyclone as it slides in through Western Washington and Western Oregon, and then slide through the Cascades and maybe bring some convergence zone bands. And then with a modified front coming down through after that, you can drop below freezing and makes a nice winter wonderland. But yeah, that's Western Washington there is looking at some pretty chilly air coming off the continent. This is pretty well established at this point, so that's good for temperatures aloft. And you can see this is about 2,500 feet, 925 millibar, and let's look at the straight 850 temperatures. So yeah, we're looking here at -10 or better actually through Western Washington. Plenty cold enough for snow. And let's look at the GFS and compare this here. 850. The GFS took a turn for the worse this round, which it doesn't worry me as much as the euro. And this is it'll be back. I mean, it's not a big deal. There's going to be a lot of fluctuations. The signal is good, and here's the main thing I look for. Let's look at this. This huge vortex up there that you see up in moving just to the east of the Northwest Territories there, as long as that kind of stays established and you see these arms coming off of the vortex and spinning those lobes of cold air at 500 millibars our way, then we have a chance. But once you get to where, actually that wasn't a good example there, you can see this kind of lobe just kind of develop and track, but this is GFS Fantasyland. But as you can see here, we don't have that really cold air aloft that you need, and there's some cold air that breaks off and gets cut off over the ocean there, and that's just not cold enough for snow generally. And you can see some more energy break off as it moves off the coast there. A little bit too much of a trajectory offshore here, picking up too much warmth. That's going to keep things above the surface as far as the snow level is concerned. And then we get clipped there, and this is the day after Christmas. So that's the GFS, a snow chance there. And that's not too far from what the European is showing. The European is just more gung-ho about it. As you can see here. Loading up, okay. That's a pretty good shot of cold air right there. That might do it. That's pretty good. That's the day after Christmas morning. So that's pretty good upper air trajectory. It's what you want to see. You don't want it spending too much time over water, and you don't want it too far inland because then you get a dry Arctic intrusion or very little moisture with it. So not bad. The European kind of came back towards the snowy solution, so that is good. So let's see if the HER has updated itself. Yep, we got the 6Z HER here. Let's go ahead and check out surface wind gust swath miles per hour and kind of see if it changed its mind at all. Yeah, calling for mid 40s in Seattle, but looks like more powerful out over the sound and just southwest of Seattle. And of course for the coast and the northern interior. But yeah, this is one of my first live feeds that I've actually ever done I hope you guys are enjoying it. I'll get better as we go on with these things too. And I'm learning this new program to try to be able to include things like radar scope. Oh, the bottom right there is my weather station. This is live. That's a live feed right now. I just have my GoPro acting as the second webcam, and I just point it at my Davis Instruments display there. So it's pretty chilly outside here. If we got a nice shower over, so we might get some mixed rain and snow here at SeaTac, but I'm not crossing my fingers there. I'm going to zoom in on Seattle here and see what the HER says. Yeah, 47 at SeaTac. I mean, that's it's starting to get a little bit of a significant wind there, and you can see 48 looks like from my house, maybe Normandy Park, and you can see as you get over towards Vashon, you might get close to 50 miles an hour. And some higher winds there, some 50s over Whidbey and the San Juans. There's a high wind warning up for the San Juans and Whidbey Island. There's wind advisory up for the coast in the Skagit and Whatcom counties. But yeah, so we still have a good chance at snow coming up here in the extended. Again, details are going to need to be pinned down. Things are going to change. The way the upper level winds evolve is going to change, and even the type of system might change. So we'll just have to see how it develops here. One common thing with all of our snowstorms is that they're generally associated with 500 millibar temperatures taking these trajectories. It's one of the ways you can just kind of look at what's going on, check the model run, and you can kind of rule out snow right away based on what kind of temperatures and trajectory the winds are taking aloft. So yeah, let's look at the HER there, and let's do Portland, Oregon. Let's see what the winds for Portland are looking like tomorrow on the HER. Not bad, especially off to the south and east there. The highlands a little bit there. In the metro, 40 plus mile per hour for Portland. And let's check the, oh yeah, this is the 6Z too, so this one's gonna run out more than 24 hours. That'll be nice. Checking 10 to 1 snowfall. This is not going to be that accurate, but man, that is, if only that were going to come true. I mean, look at I-5 there, just would get blanketed. I mean, let me dig a little deeper into that, because let's look at the dew point. Is there something getting pulled? Is the gorge getting cooled down from east wind or anything? Or is the dew point? I mean, the dews are right there at or above freezing, so it's going to be tough. Let's look at the surface wind. I mean, the gorge winds aren't really going by them, but you are getting some offshore. There's some offshore component there. I mean, you're getting a north wind, so it's probably just, it's going to be interesting. I don't know. It looks like it's going to be a little bit too warm, but let's play the actual temperature and see what the HER says, because HER is painting some pretty hefty snowfall amounts there. You can see the temperature drop going into Sunday or Saturday evening and then to Sunday morning. It's pretty chilly. There's right around freezing for Sunday morning. It's a tough call, but I would say that that's probably not going to be sticking on the cement. I think it's going through some of the problems and models we're going through last week, and that keeping the surface is just too warm, and models are not taking into account it's taking into account the snow that's falling, and it's not including, it's assuming the snow is going to be sticking. Yeah, I hope you guys like these videos. I enjoy making them, and hopefully it's something you guys enjoy watching. If you guys missed anything, I'll go over it one more time. The system is looking stronger. That's coming in tonight into tomorrow morning. It's going to barrel through BC, and it's going to bring some pretty good winds, looking like 40, 45 mile per hour gusts to the Puget Sound, a little bit higher southwest towards Olympia, and going to be higher on the coast. Whidbey Island, the San Juans, Skagit, and Whatcom counties. And you can see the NAM here painting some, 49 in Seattle on this latest North American run. So yeah, something to pay attention to tomorrow morning. Let's look at actually, let's bring up the HER since it's doing this, and let's bring up the pressure and just kind of look. You can get a little bit of a glimpse of the low here. And you can see right now we've got fairly weak gradients across the region. You can see that low sliding in. You see the gradient tighten up. About an 8 millibar gradient there coming across the southern Puget Sound, and even tighter there as you get about 8 a.m. tomorrow morning. Almost an 8 millibar Portland, Seattle, which can be pretty darn windy. So yeah, interesting. That system is beefing up a bit there. And then the extended, there's still a chance, but it looks like it might come just after Christmas. And the way things are going, that might get pushed back even more. But maybe as this lobe moves through on the 22nd, maybe we'll get a little bit of snow out of that, or maybe that'll change a bit, or maybe that lobe that's moving out of the north there will speed up a little bit, and it will get us on Christmas Day, and we'll get a white Christmas out of this after all. I'd say our chances for white Christmas are just a little bit above average, but they're probably not as high as I was considering a few days ago. But things can change, so you know where to find me on Twitter, and I'll be doing these videos probably every day. Just try to get this channel established, and since there's stuff to talk about now, I'll probably keep doing them. And during the off season, I do a lot of storm chasing out in Tornado Alley. I go to California sometimes, Montana. I'll drive to other states to do weather. I'll go to Hawaii even to storm chase. So that's for the off season though. We got plenty of action for the Pacific Northwest here to talk about. But yeah, we filled up the chat bar here. Hopefully that is populating itself. And yeah, so I'm just learning this program now, and I will get better at these briefings, and I'll be better prepared, and hopefully we'll have more to talk about as we get closer to this event. A snowstorm isn't imminent for Portland or Vancouver at this point, but if moisture gets up towards Bellingham or Vancouver, BC on Monday, that is going to be a snow event potentially with that Fraser River outflow going on. Yeah, our snow events are so marginal here sometimes. And we get them, but they're hard to predict, and there's so many influences. There's a terrain influence, there's a warm ocean influence, there's more terrain over British Columbia. The Arctic air has to be deep enough to get over British Columbia, and then it has to be triggered by a developing low just in the right trajectory to bring that cold air over us at the same time as having cold enough air at the surface. There's a lot that comes into play. But even though you need all those things, we do get snow usually each year at some point. Some years much more than others. The exception is the El Nino years. I think there's 6 or 7 El Nino years since 1950 where it has just not snowed at all. Actually, that might be since 1980, the last 40 years. But every La Nina year, we've gotten measurable snowfall at Seattle since at least 1980, and I think that goes back even further than that. Yeah, I need to get that going, my audio stuff. I've got to do a better test on that. I can see my bar there too. Maybe I should get one of those boom mics so I can just have it off to the side here and not have it next to the keyboard. Surprise Super Bowl Sunday snow a few years. What year was that? Do you remember what year that was when the Super Bowl snow? I could look it up, but I have actually I don't have it on the computer right now. But anyway, so that's what's going on. A little windstorm for tomorrow morning, and then you might see some flakes flying on Monday, but no snow expected on the I-5 corridor and the lowlands, and if the moisture gets up towards Bellingham or Vancouver, BC, get some snow out of that. And that's really it for now. The European, actually, that's what we were going to do. We're going to look at the control, the European control run. Let's take a look at that. So that's our system. You can kind of see it tightening up over Vancouver Island in western Washington. So it's going to bring our wind tomorrow morning. And you can see that cutoff low. It's being shown well on the control run here. It just hangs out there and it gets reabsorbed. Am I clicking? I'm going through two at a time here. Okay. Gets reabsorbed by that next system from the north. And this is December 22nd, the morning. And that lobe, I mean, we'll have to see how that develops. But that one is really interesting there. I mean, that's the real deal. That would be a snowy solution probably. And that's Christmas Eve. We'll have to check out the surface pressure on that and check out just where the cyclone develops with that one. And it keeps us in that cold pattern there all the way through Christmas Day on this meet. The European just right back in the snow hype here this round, this Christmas morning. And this is still plenty cold enough for snow here for western Washington, depending on surface low development at that point. Yeah, plenty cold enough for snow on this. And then it kind of keeps these upper level winds on us. I mean, that's impressive. That's a cold stretch. Maybe we'll get several chances of snow out of this. You know, I don't want to get my hopes up too much, but and then it finally comes to an end at the end, or does it? You know, I don't. Some of these winters, if you look back in our past, I think it was 68 to 69 December and January. It snowed almost 70 inches at SeaTac. Combine the 2 months, almost 70 inches, 45 in January and I think 22 in December. And it snowed a considerable amount of each of the months. So it does happen every once in a while here. We get some pretty extreme winters once in a while. As you know, we've had two winters with extreme Februaries recently, 2019, 2021. We've had December of 2008, we had January 2012, but we really haven't had just an overwhelming winter for a while now. Yeah, I can't imagine the hype and the insanity that would ensue over Washington, Oregon, and BC if we got a winter like 68, 69, or 1950, or really a scenario like 1996 again. So yeah, the ensemble run is quite a nice sight if you are a snow lover. Let's look at the surface pressure here. So this is the 23rd, and that is a really powerful low. So that's kind of nutty. That's an extremely powerful low crossing right over the region, and then on the back side of that would be much colder, and that's probably when the snow would happen. Some decent Arctic air up there, pretty good gradient for British Columbia on the ensemble control here. So yeah, and this subtle troughing here is enough to cause a significant snowfall event through the Puget Sound. As this low swings through here like that, you're going to get some northwest winds across, or westerly winds across the Olympic Mountains there, and you can get pretty good snowfall events. I think the 1990 December, it was just like a 10, 12 millibar trough, which is similar to this one. Not saying 1990 is coming here, but can't rule anything out. You get the right trajectory and you can get some nice snowstorms here in Seattle. Moving into the future even more, that would be a unique event right there. That's a strong low diving into Oregon and developing with Arctic air in place in British Columbia. This would be a snow lover's dream right there. That's Tuesday morning, December 28th. It's too bad this is 10 days away, because that is impressive. That would be a really powerful region-wide snowstorm. That would be amazing. Yeah, day after Christmas, 96. That was something. I can remember Christmas night and seeing the storm potential unfold in front of us just a day late. By the next day, it was snowing pretty good in 1996. Yeah, this is the problem with looking at models 10 days out. We can get a good idea of what's coming, but the problem is with each of these individual runs, it's just, like you said, a roller coaster of emotions, and for me, it's just kind of fun to watch these things evolve. But I know for a lot of people it can be stressful, or you're trying to make plans, and so I try not to get too hyped up about things, because at any time everything could go south. So yeah, and then that would put an end to our snow for that. Oh geez, wow, look at that. So the end of the control ensemble there. Look at that Arctic high. So maybe we'll get a really active, end to December and on into January. Who knows? Yeah, 2012 was a good one too. A nice snowfall, and then they had freezing rain on top of that. The freezing rain was really hard to predict too. I was working for Alaska then, and it really hampered the airline. I mean, when you get freezing rain accumulating on planes' wings, it is a nightmare. It takes de-icing fluid much more. It takes much more de-icing fluid to get ice off of wings than it does, snow or ice mixed with air or rime ice. Clear ice is just brutal on airplane wings. But yeah, the European is back on board with a cold solution. Man, that's one of the best model runs I've seen in a long time. That's pretty impressive. So let's look at the ensemble mean actually here too. This kind of tells you, this is an average of all 50 runs. So this is just kind of giving you a very vague idea of what's going on. So right here, it's telling you that Christmas morning, there's Arctic air in British Columbia, and there's going to be probably a troughing with an associated low just off the coast of Western Washington. So that is a good signal for snow lovers. You can see that this is much more smooth and gradual, and it's just an average. So that's why everything is kind of smoothed out. And you can see the Arctic air sitting there, and then looks like another, well, as you get into the future, more of these runs are going to be varying, so it's more of an average at this point, and it kind of becomes more worthless as you get off to the future there. You'll notice how much this differs at 360 hours versus the control ensemble that had a huge Arctic high just bearing down into British Columbia again. So, but this is a good signal for snow lovers here. Christmas morning, a low off the coast, Arctic air up north. Let's look at upper air temperature anomaly. Yeah, I mean, this is an ensemble mean. This is the mean of all 50 ensembles that had initial conditions tweaked and let it run out. And that's a really strong signal for very cold air. I mean, it's not the polar opposite of the monster heat dome we had, but it's not a bad signal at all. That is a very good signal. And those 850 temps are close. So let's see. Yeah, plenty of cold air just locked up in Western Canada there. And it just takes a low to come swinging down the coast with the right trajectory to tap that air and to bring some snow for us. Yeah, I did an interview with Cliff Mass last year about before the snow fell. He gets pretty gung-ho about it too. He likes it. He's very conservative with it, and that's good to be. I'm just kind of, if I get a little more popular, I'll probably scale it back a little bit. I don't do this at work. I make sure the events are coming when I'm at work before I start chirping to everybody. So it's a little bit of a hype thing when you follow me, but at the same time, it's going to be accurate. I'm not going to tell you anything that couldn't possibly happen or anything like that. But I just try to make it fun, basically. But it's nice to kind of see it 10 days out, and then you kind of understand how things evolve. So let's look at the control. Wow, look at that. Yeah. Get those 850 temperatures. Just bitter cold there up in British Columbia. You can see that just spill out. But I'm still kind of loving this low that shows up right there. That is amazing. That is an amazing storm. Just an 984 low digging into Idaho would just be bringing all kinds of north flow behind that. Let's look at the... It's not going to let us do surface winds there. Maybe we can zoom in a little bit here. Out of it there. You know, pressure is high enough up there. What is this? This is 1,000 millibars here. Lake Williams is in here, so you're looking at 25 millibar gradient from Lake Williams into Bellingham, which is a really powerful offshore wind would be going at this point. Let's look at this. Yeah, you can see the Fraser River Valley, full outflow winds across the region. Behind that low as it slides in. Let's see what the snowfall says. 24-hour snowfall totals. Yeah, you can see some of those bands up there in western Washington. And on this one, it kind of rain shadows the Pacific North or the Seattle area there. And really just look at eastern Oregon, just gets the brunt of this thing. Amazing. And this following one would be better for Seattle, but yeah, the European looks good. It took a couple days off there, but it's gone back, which is a good sign. So we'll have to see how that turns out. Yeah, 2008 was the last really good low temperature. I mean, 2012 we had some low temps also, but wow, it's been 32 years since we've been below 10 degrees at SeaTac. Yeah, that was February 7th, 1989. We were at 7 degrees, and I think that's the last time we used to get down below 10 here at SeaTac, and I hope that's not a sign of global warming. Yeah, I think like 1916 or something like that, Green Lake froze over. I think it did in the 30s also. I remember my grandma telling me about that it froze over in the 30s. And in the 50s it might have too, I'm not sure. But I know portions of Lake Washington, on the north side of Lake Washington, 1950 froze over. And I know that portions of Elliott Bay on the Puget Sound were freezing over in 1950. So you don't need much of a body of water to create lake effect snow. And we actually do get Puget Sound effect snow sometimes. And when we look at, here, I'll bring the upper air wind here. So we'll look at, well, I'm going to have to go back to the European to show an example of that. Let's go upper air wind, 850, wind speed and heights. And when you, basically a lot of our snowstorms are ocean effect snow. If you can see these 850 millibar winds coming off the coast and ripping over the ocean here and back into us, that's really cold air picking up some moisture and slamming it back into western Washington. So it's just like, it's really the same thing as the Great Lakes. It's just a different trajectory, and this is what is picking up our moisture. Even the curvature of the coast here up into British Columbia, as the cold air pours off, this helps develop cyclogenesis actually off our coastline too. So yeah, we do get ocean effect snowstorms. That's another way to say it. Yeah, you're putting cold air over a warm body of water, and that creates some instability at the lower levels, and that can create, localized bands of snowfall, especially when they wrap around the Olympic Mountains. And I've seen it, like, I think the last time I saw it in 2010, we were getting pretty good north flow, and I lived right on the Puget Sound, and it looked, I think that we were getting Puget Sound effect snow during that storm. It was pretty interesting. It just wouldn't stop right up against the Puget Sound there. Yeah, ocean effect, it's legit. It's a real phenomena. Here, I'll even back out here on the North America and take a look at this. Oh, it didn't like that. So it doesn't want to give me... Yeah, that's too bad. Maybe I can do... Canada, there we go. Alberta and British Columbia. Upper air wind. So check this out. You can see the winds here circling back southwest and then back southeast up here. And as this system slides down Vancouver Island, at this point here, you can see these winds blasting off the continent. And as they blast off the continent, they pick up moisture and come back into Western Washington. And that can develop into it'll develop actually a weak low out here. One of the first satellite images of one of these storms was this November 1985. They showed that you can see the big cloud streaks going across the ocean as this really cold air came off the continent, and you can see it just line up and slam back into Western Washington. And that was another really subtle low in November 1985. You guys remember that one? Seattle, I had almost a foot of snow in North Seattle for that storm. Yeah, exactly. That's another one too. Puget Sound effect snow, as that comes out of the Fraser River Valley. Let me zoom in. I'll show you guys that one too. So we'll go to surface wind. There's actually a little bit of a hint at something like that too. So if you see these outflow winds coming across, oh, sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself a little bit there. Let's get to that point first. Notice here, out of the Fraser River Valley, which is northeast of Bellingham, the winds come through there and across that relatively warmer Puget Sound. It can pick up moisture there too, and then it runs into the mountains, and there are some really massive snowfall totals that have occurred on Port Angeles over there. That's a really nice setup. If you're getting cold air coming out off a continent and across relatively warm air of the Puget Sound and then running into mountains, anybody who lives out in Port Angeles for a while can attest to how much snowfall that can create. Yeah, the models will pick up those lows, but a lot of times they're kind of... The thing is that those subtle lows, as they swing through, it's such a game of cat and mouse. If it's just a little too far north, then it leaves Seattle warm. Or if it's, the track has to be correct. But yeah, the models are getting better, especially the high resolution models. They're picking up these subtle lows. And as you see here, let's go back out and I'll do surface pressure. And this is the European model here. So let's go. Yeah, so a subtle low like that can bring you snow. It's, again, in 1985, I think there was a 10-16 millibar low. Really weak. 1990 was like a 10-12. It's just a nice... The pressure is so high into British Columbia that it's just... And this trough is basically forming because this air is so cold, and as it crosses the relatively warm air, then it rises and actually creates its own instability and its actual own low pressure out here. So all you need is strong winds coming off of really cold air, and that cold air gets down and it will just gobble that ocean moisture up, and it will develop cyclogenesis off the coast here, and it'll bring it back into Western Washington. And it's really nice when these lows are progressive and they come through and then they bring convergence zone bands. You can get some really good snowfall events like December 1990, where some places got over a foot. Okay, it's just after midnight, so I'll get off for now, but I'll do another briefing tomorrow night. We'll take another look at all this and break it all down again, and we'll see how that windstorm turned out at this time tomorrow. I'll probably do it around 10 o'clock or so. I'll do it a little bit earlier tomorrow. And yeah, if you guys just joined the last few minutes there, windstorm tomorrow morning. I shouldn't say windstorm, but a windy period. It looks like mid upper 40s are possible through the Puget Sound, and wind advisory for the coast. San Juan's, Whidbey Island. And if you guys look at that display in the bottom right there, that is my live weather station. I'm just pointing a webcam at it and letting it run, and radar scope is just playing live there too. And yeah, so I'm trying to learn the system, and hopefully you guys like these briefings, and I'll keep doing them, and I will talk to you guys later. I gotta get ready for work tomorrow.